listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Cali Estes and Master Coach Jenny Fontana, founders of the Life Coach Method. Each one of our uplifting and deep dive episodes is geared to help you tackle the things that hold you back from having the most magnificent life you deserve. Sit back, relax, and prepare to be coached.
Hey guys, this is Dr. Cali Estes with Unpause Your Life. Another great episode. Thank you for tuning in and making us number 10 on the self-help podcast, which is pretty awesome out of 4 million. So I'd like to, without further ado, introduce my really awesome guest, Gabe Cohen, and he's going to tell you about his book and his trainings and what he's doing in prisons and all that fun, cool stuff. So welcome, Gabe.
Hi, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
I'm glad you're here. So start us off with this. Tell us who you are and how you got here with your professional life.
Wonderful. Yeah, my name's obviously you just introduced me. My name's Gabe Cohen. I am a person in recovery. Um, I'll give you the short version of the long version. I grew up in New York. Um, got addicted to cocaine when I was 15, was using drugs and alcohol when I was about 13. Got arrested for the first time for a shooting when I was 15. That was my first involvement with law enforcement. Um, Basically, really strained my relationship with my family. And so uh, started selling cocaine, dropped out of high school. Um, Started smoking crack, got addicted to crack when I was 18, started taking steroids. So I was doing coke, smoking crack, taking steroids. It was a disaster. Um, have an
So
uncle
pretty much the gamut, right? Like, the whole New York. Where did you grow up in New York? What part?
actually on Long Island, but I
Okay.
wound up, I was selling silk dresses out of the trunk of my car in Jamaica, Queens, in Ozone Park when I was 18, 19 years old. I was in way over my head as a
So,
kid.
but hang on. But those
Yeah.
of you that are not from the Northeast, because I'm from Philly, this is normal. We're selling shit out of our car. We're hustling. I mean, when I was 13, I would get all the neighborhood kids to do a talent show, and then I would charge their parents to come to it. And then I would bake and I would sell the baked goods and I'd make all this money. And everyone's like, what are you doing? You're like 13. I'm like hustling. So the hustle
Yeah.
mentality is normal. So go ahead.
That's
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm so happy that you said all that. It's a great icebreaker because something I share today when I do the work that I do in my community and especially in the prison system is, the hustle's the same. I'm just I'm in the recovery business, and I'm grinding. It's the same hustle. Um, so yeah, I have an uncle that lives in Denver, and basically he was like, I was getting it was things were getting ugly. I had already been to my first rehab, relapsed right after it, stole cars, stole my money out of my parents' checking accounts, sold all their stuff, typical crackhead stuff. Um, my uncle said, get on a plane, pack a duffel bag. I have a friend in Narcotics Anonymous. You're going to go to meetings with him, stay sober, like tough love, like one relapse and you're out.
Wow.
Like if you want to go back to New York, you need to find your own way, but I'll give you a safe place to land and an opportunity. He had a friend that was going to NA, and he was like, he'll pick you up day one. Cool. I'm on the plane, right? I owe people money. I'm cracked out. It's a ticket out of New York. So I come to Denver, make it 6 weeks, and get a job at a health club. I was always into fitness. I looked good on the outside, but I wasn't really healthy on the inside. And met a girl, went to a party, got drunk. Uh, where do people buy crack around here? I'm asking people like, where's the bad part of town? I want to know where to score. I go downtown Denver, smoke crack, get kicked out of my uncle's house. So I go from middle class suburbia Long Island to homeless for the first time in Denver, Colorado.
Hang on.
And
And the difference between Denver and New York is the temperature. It's
yeah,
freezing in Denver. I used to live there. I had a house in Longmont, so it's cold, and now you're
okay.
homeless in downtown Denver.
Yeah, well, and then if you know Denver, Capitol Hill, East Colfax, right? They're like,
Yeah.
go to Colfax. So that was my stomping grounds. And for the first time, I'm like strung out. Where do you guys get food? And I'm down at Jesus Saves at Denver Rescue Mission, and it was my first like culture shock. Here I am. I'm actually homeless, and I'm on the street. So the fast forward, long story short, from that started multiple misdemeanor arrests, trespassing, stealing stuff, fighting, paraphernalia. I'm in and out of city jails, county jails. Um, by the time I'm 24, I uh, I moved to the western slope of Colorado, met my first wife, have our first son. I'm trying to do the geographic thing, right? I'm going to get sober. We'll move to the mountains. I'll get a real job. I got a job as a carpenter's assistant. I didn't even know how to read a tape measure. I had starting from scratch. Um, I'm framing houses up in Aspen, Colorado. It's a beautiful setting. And of course, I discovered there's plenty of cocaine in Aspen, Colorado. Get involved with the drug crowd and partying. And next thing I know, 96, I get my first felony cocaine possession case, and I'm on my way with a 2 to 6 year prison sentence. So get my first prison sentence, and basically um, from 98, because I was in and out from 96 to 98, I was in and out of the jail. I got a prison sentence, but they sent me to a halfway house, and I took off from the halfway house, and they sent me back to. It was in and out like five
I'm
different
gonna
times I
stop
violated.
for 1 second because you said
Yeah,
a very key piece of information. You said I did the geographic thing, but you glossed over it. So I want to point that out.
sure.
When we're trying to get sober, everybody does this. We go to the, I'm going to move here because it's a new environment. I'm going to get sober. We've done none of the inner work. So we take our crappy inner self to a new location and do the same behavior. And then we go, all right, I'm going to do this over again. And then go to another location with our same crappy behavior and do the same thing, going, why can't I figure it out? Because we didn't do any of the inner work. So I just want to point that out because that's going to frame everything you end up doing and how you get here with the book and all of that. You got to do the inner work.
Yeah, I mean, yes, thank you for covering that. Absolutely. You do the geographic thing thinking I'm going to go somewhere where I don't know anybody, right? And that way there's no triggers, right? But if you don't do the inner work, you're going to find your drug of choice. You're going to find those people. It's not like they're not there. And we're quite savvy in our addiction, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, fast forward from and there's a lot in between, but from 98 to 2011, I was in and out of Colorado Department of Corrections, basically the prison system, seven different times. So I never did more than 2.5 years at one time. Um, for those 7 times, I was paroled homeless. So I personally know the plight of what it's like getting out of jail or prison with no money, no phone, nowhere to go, no driver's license. I mean, people don't. I think often, unless you've experienced it, it's really hard to get a job if you don't have an ID, and it's really hard to get an ID and make an appointment if you don't have a phone and you don't have transportation to get there. There's plenty of excuses. It's doable, but it's not easy. And so, yeah, from in 2011, 40 years old, broke, homeless. I was diagnosed in the prison system as bipolar and having PTSD. So I was on and off for about 10 years. I was prescribed, I was taking like 2,000 milligrams of lithium. I was on Seroquel, Trazodone, back and forth. I'd get out, I'd relapse, get off all my meds, come back in, get back on my meds, that revolving door, right? Um, got out in 2011, wanted to get off all of my meds. I had some, and I'm not, if you need medication and the doctor prescribes it, there's lots of good medications out there. I feel like it helped me over the years. Um, I don't I don't believe I was properly, I don't know if that's the right
I
word,
was
not
just going to ask you that, and I'm going to tell you why. So,
properly diagnosed, right? I think I was because I haven't been on meds since 2012. And they put me on SSI. They said I was too mentally disabled or, to work. So they put me on SSI.
wow. So,
They
okay.
did.
So
Yeah.
for the listeners, my listeners know I'm a big anti-pharma girl. Like I'm real
Okay.
big into it's a misdiagnosis. When somebody does crack cocaine, it takes 6 months for the brain to heal from that drug use. And the problem is we go into a rehab or a prison system and you've got this psychiatrist that meets you for the first time and in 15 minutes goes, well, according to your 10 behaviors and this book called the DSM, you're
Yeah.
bipolar 1 or you're bipolar 2 or you're borderline.
Yeah.
However, you're detoxing, your brain isn't healed, they don't know who you are, and they're judging you based upon a textbook with no blood work. 9 times out of 10, if I pulled your blood work, it would show me what's really going on inside your body. So I'm very anti big pharma. So I'm kind of glad you brought that up, is
No,
that you're
that's
now off medication. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I was in the prison system, and when they do blood work because lithium, in fact, at one point, they put me on Depakote and lithium was back and forth. Um, at one point, they gave me too much. You're supposed to like go on it gradually, right? I came right into the system. They were like, "Oh, you're on 2,000 milligrams." Boom! One of the nurses gave me 2,000 milligrams. I had some type of toxicity. I passed out. I mean, I woke up in the hospital.
Yeah.
They almost killed me. Um, I started having, when they did the blood work, I was started to have liver damage. And, it could be a combination of the drugs and alcohol, obviously. But they were saying, we need to try to find a different drug because you're starting to have liver damage. But, they were trying to get me to like I guess weigh the cost. Like, do you want to be on medication and this will help you not relapse? And maybe, take a couple years off your life because you're going to have, liver disease eventually. Um, or do you want to risk possible relapse and spending the rest of your life in prison and maybe killing yourself or ODing or whatever, not take your medication, and that's pretty bleak, to be given that.
So I'm just going to stop you right there. So
Yeah.
instead of like figuring out what your problem is, what your root cause is, we're going to give you two options. Don't figure it out. Don't take drugs and maybe you'll be dead or kill someone else, or take it and live, but you're going to die eventually. Like where is the let's get to the bottom of why you're drinking and using drugs in the first place? That drives me nuts. It's like let's slap a band-aid on it and put you out in society, but let's not solve you as a human being. Like that total health approach where we look at, physical, mental, emotional, social. No one's doing that. That's like my specialty. That's what I do is I want to know your whole system. So go ahead. I'm jumping in
No,
your
no,
story.
no, thank you so much. This is so important, and I can't wait to share this, with my people that are following me because you're making such important points here. Um, yeah, unfortunately, they're they're not really they're not really being of service the way they should serve people. And anyways, that we could go down that rabbit hole. But that was the predicament I was in. I got out, like I said, 2011. Really, my main goal. So I have two sons at that time. My oldest is about to graduate high school, and really all I wanted to do was work on reestablishing a relationship with my kids. Um, that was my focus. I went to dually diagnosed groups twice a week. I went to, I'm a faith-based guy too. I went to church, went to AA because it was the only recovery meeting in our community, um, and just was trying to do it, uh, still trying to do it my way. So I'd get 3 months clean, I'd relapse, I'd get 6 months clean, I'd relapse. Basically, that was my cycle, 2011 through 2018. Also started. Got into martial arts, 40 years old. I always had a dream of being a black belt, and I discovered Krav Maga, which that's a whole nother story, but it just really spoke to me, and it just helped me with my self-confidence and my self-esteem that like at 40 years old, I could start something not knowing anything about it and could learn this curriculum and be proficient at it. And it built my self-confidence, my self-esteem. But through Krav Maga, I got my black belt when I was 46, my first one. I now have three black belts in Krav Maga, and I started my own business, got into the security industry, was running nightclub security, not the greatest place for a person in recovery. Started functionally using cocaine, justifying it like, hey, I'm not smoking crack anymore. I have a house. I got remarried. We have a son. I have a third son, reconciled relationships with my other sons, was kind of living my dream of just training during the week, working out, teaching Krav Maga, going to the nightclub, running security, partying on the weekends, and kind of thought I had it managed. And in 2018, I started having pain in my lower back. I thought it was from working out. And then I was vomiting and I went to the doctor. This was after a weekend of doing way too much cocaine. And it turned out that my kidney function had shut down. And they put me in an ambulance. I rushed me to a hospital. I had what they call rhabdomyolysis. And some extreme athletes get it. Triathletes or people that do triathlons, special forces, when your body gets extremely dehydrated, it releases, I guess, toxins into your blood, which affects your kidneys, but you can also get rhabdomyolysis from cocaine toxicity, which I
Mm.
didn't know. And by the way, and I should for everybody that's listening, because it's part of my recovery story, I was also on three different steroids, at the time. Three different steroids, doing cocaine, kidney shut down. I was hooked up to IVs, and they were talking, I'm either going to need a transplant, um, or I'm not walking out of there, or maybe miraculously my kidney function will come back, and we'll just wait and see. So for 6 days, I was in the hospital. Um, yeah, and I just, I prayed and I said, God, if I walk out of here, I'm all in. I'll serve you. Uh, my wife was ready to leave me yet again. That's another part of the story I didn't really touch on, but she had left me several times. She's not a drug user. Um, was still trying to keep it all together. So I miraculously walk out of the hospital. My kidney function comes back. I do have kidney damage from that overdose, but I am alive. And yeah, I started what I call Kings and Priests ministry, street and prison jail ministry. I started volunteering in the jail, doing Bible study with guys, and then somebody introduced me to the concept of recovery coaching. And I wasn't always a faith-based guy, and I know how religion can be a barrier for many people. It used to be a barrier for me. Um, and so I really liked the concept. I took my first C-car training, which was my first introduction to recovery coach, and the whole concept of multiple pathways to recovery. And I like that. And I didn't want faith to be a barrier to anybody. So I started my first peer coaching business, got a third-party Medicaid biller, got the contract to do the substance abuse classes for the rifle to parole department. And then in 2020, when COVID hit, I had people coming out of the county jail. There's no meetings. There's nowhere. There's no place to get food. Guys were like living in the woods, literally up here on the western slope, and it gets cold in Colorado.
Yeah.
Um, so I just thought I'm gonna rent a building and I'll get a crock pot or we'll make sandwiches. We'll have all recovery meetings. I'll get clothing. We'll have a clothing bank, food bank, kind of just put something together, and I applied for my first grant. Called it the Discovery Cafe, a sanctuary of new beginnings, just a peer-to-peer support model, recovery support model. And we serve lunch for free. We have all recovery meetings. I got a couple storage units with clothes, furniture, everything if we can give it away for free to people. And really, we see ourselves as like a recovery resource broker. So it doesn't just have to be, like addiction, alcoholism. It can be, if you're experiencing homelessness, if you just got out of prison or the county jail, if you experience domestic violence. Really, we just wanted to create a safe place where you can come and you know, find a sanctuary and multiple resources and get connected with people that have already walked the walk and know the community resources and can help you get connected. And so we got our first grant for $50,000 in 2021. That got us started with our first location, Discovery Cafe, and you can find us at discoverycafe.org. We're in Garfield County. And from that first grant, we applied for another one from Colorado Health Foundation and then Rocky Mountain Health and Daniels Fund. And we just got so blessed. In the last 4 years, we have generated over $2.2 million in grants and contracts. We became the leading peer program in the Colorado Department of Corrections, currently serving in 4 prisons in Colorado. I secured a grant through the Office of Behavioral Health to actually employ inmates,
Mhm.
train them in our model, get them certified as recovery coaches, have them facilitate the groups, and pay them minimum wage while they're serving time so they can save money, so they have a nest egg when they get out. Unfortunately, that grant ends June 30th of this year. So we're always looking for more funding. And now I just published my book called The Peer Recovery Community Organization: How to Leverage Your Lived Experience and Create a New Legacy. Basically, a book I wish I would have had. I wish somebody would have wrote this for me
I
five
want to
years.
back you up a second. So,
Sure.
with your prison stuff, the Department of Justice contacted me in 2021, and we
Okay.
did a whole prison reentry program. So, the Addictions Academy has the first and only prison reentry certification for inmates. So we
Love it.
actually certified the inmates on how to help other inmates. And it's got a whole thing of resources, like where to go for free food, free job application, where to get a job, if you have a felony versus misdemeanor, all the grants, everything they need is in that course. So it's not just recovery coaching, it's actually how to get back into society when you have a felony or a misdemeanor and how to overcome all those things. And they came to me because my late husband had 24 felonies and 14 misdemeanors. And I was on a podcast talking about how he couldn't find a job. Everywhere we went, he couldn't get housing, he couldn't get a job, and everything was through my name. And the DOJ saw me on a podcast and said, "Can you do this program?" I said, "Yeah." So we actually wrote and we have a certification for that. So that might be something that you might want to look
Yeah,
at.
I want one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to add into your repertoire because it's pretty neat. It's got so many resources in it. So I'll send
Well, I
it to
would,
you.
please do. And of course we could talk after this podcast. Um, Yeah, let's figure out how we can introduce it into the Colorado prison system possibly, or parole department. I would love to connect with
Yeah.
you on that
We
topic.
got it into Oregon, Alaska, and Florida. And because I don't do the grant stuff, it's time consuming. You do it. I have trained the trainers that do the grants. We have a couple nonprofits that do all of that. So I'll
Yeah.
hook you up with Aaron, who does all the nonprofits. He does the prison reentry in Michigan for me.
Okay.
He's
No,
in
I
all the
would love
jails up
that.
there. Yeah,
Yeah. No, and we have consultants like all the grant stuff, the financial
yeah.
budget. That's all over my head. And really, what I would love to get into these days is helping other people get started to start their own recovery community centers. If anyone has any questions or wants to pick my brain on anything, please, reach out, get the book. It's basically the lessons that I learned, how I started this with no experience, and I have so many people come up to me and they want to be of service and they want to start something. And what I've noticed, at least in my circle, I'm trying to expand my circle. That's why we're talking. Um, there's it's kind of like the old guard, like gatekeepers, and like I see this fear of like they don't want to share a piece of the pie, like the knowledge of how to get started or they're comfortable training people to get people to work underneath them, but they don't want to encourage people and teach people how to get out there and fulfill their dream and start their own thing, and I just I really want to encourage people, if you want to be of service and you've got the lived experience, that this is doable, and look for the voids in your community and what's needed and see if you can fill that void.
That's a
So
big barrier. When I first started the Addictions Academy in 2012,
yeah,
2014, I got hit with 15 heavy people in the industry coming at me, trying to take me out because
yeah,
they said, you can't do this. This isn't right. And I said, well, why not? Well, we don't want this. We don't want competitors. You don't want people trying to steal your clients. I'm like, there's plenty of clients. We should be helping people.
gosh,
We're
yeah,
not looking at this from the right standpoint. So I foraged through, I sued all 15 of them, and I'm like, you're gonna
wow,
STFU because I'm out here to help people. I want to create, an army. And to date, we've trained 60,000 people across the
wow,
globe. We're in 30 countries. We have 45 classes. So it's that whole old school mentality. There's not enough money to go around. And I'm
yeah,
like, you guys are crazy. 1 in 5 people has mental health. 1 in 7 has an addiction. Why aren't we helping people? What's this like hoarding clients concept? I don't get it. So, yeah, it's
yeah,
it's
it's
tough to overcome that. But there are
yeah,
a ton of people that want to help.
I'm, well said. And you experienced it, right? I mean, I'm new. I'm a new guy, and well, we're 4 years into it, but yeah, that would, I just see like politics, egos, greed, and it's a shame because we're in the business of helping people, like to your point, exactly. And thank you for being what I've been coined before as an industry disruptor, right? Because you just went in there and you did
Yeah,
your thing, and
I
you're
did.
like, you're not going to tell me what.
I was in the Huffington Post as one of the 99 female disruptors because I pushed back in the industry and everyone was like, you can't do this. And I'm like, well, watch me. And I
Yeah,
did. And then they were like, okay, I guess she's not going anywhere. We have to kind of leave her alone. I'm like, yeah, that's the whole point. I want to help people and I want other people to help people. And, we're giving people disservice if we're not giving them education and quality. And the problem is everybody wants to be an expert. Like I see all these people that all of a sudden are an expert, and I'm like, you have no training. Where have you gone to? You're an expert in what? It's
yeah.
great you can do drugs. You're an expert in drug addiction, but you're not an expert because you're not trained. You need that training, that certification, that education, and then position yourself as an expert.
Yeah, and to your point as well, like your reentry program, I'm sure it's nationally it's accredited. I mean, you have an accreditation as well, right?
Nationally and internationally. Yeah, we're
Okay.
both.
Yeah, no, I'm really interested. I really want to get this information, and I want to read more about you, and learn more. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, you're very welcome. We're actually out of time. I'm looking at the clock. So I'm going to wrap us up.
Okay.
Your book will be in our show notes so they can find your book. They can find you if they want to learn more about setting up a community and all of the education. We'll put all that in there for you. So I want to thank you for coming on. Hold up your book again for me, real quick.
Thank
So,
you.
guys, Gabe Cohen, the Peer Recovery Community Organization, and all the notes will be here so you can find him and his book. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming on.
Sure. Leave a review on Amazon if you get one. It'll be helpful. Thank you.
Very helpful. Have a
Bye.
great day, guys. You are listening to Unpause Your Life.
Thank you for listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Cali Estes and Master Coach Jenny Fontana. Head over to www.thelifecoachmethod.com to learn more about coaching yourself and how to become a master coach.